Welcome to Flipped Friday for February 2015. It's going to be a really quick video here because attached to this there's lots of opportunities for resources and some reading for you. And one of the pieces, well, I'm asking everybody to read. It's relatively long. It's the 5th chapter of the Dweck book, and it's the book that kind of has been the theme. There we go, grading harder or smarter, not harder. And Chapter 5 is the longest chapter, but it also, well, I think will address many of the questions and concerns that have kind of come up as we've worked through these other Flipped Fridays and some of the things that have become maybe roadblocks or how do I get through that. And it really is about creativity in how you assess and formatively assess and get kids to reflect on their learning. And I tried to address too then with the other handouts that are attached to this blend space. 3 resources from my observation, again, to dig us deeper into the Marzano instructional framework. That also was a part of our January 5th meeting, was we looked at, or the January staff meeting before we started back here, we looked at the, again, Marzano lesson plan template. And again, most everybody now at this point or getting close has been through a formal observation. If not, you probably have used that template for your SLO. But anytime we can try to provide resources to get people to dig a little deeper into that, and you maybe find a strategy that's completely new. Maybe you find something that you're already doing and you read some of these pieces and you might think maybe I can add a little piece to that. So there are 3, I call them interactive, not interactive, which like it's going to talk back to you, but there are some reflective questions that kind of guides you through how you might be. The 3 things that I focused on were design question 1, how do I establish and communicate learning goals, track student progress, and celebrate success. Still, as a lot of conversations I'm having with a lot of you and staff is, how do we put into words, how do we put into language what success will look like, and how do we share that with kids in a way that can help them work their way through their own learning, so then they have a feeling as they are learning this new content, processing this new content, interacting with this new knowledge, that they are on track for what it is that you want them to be able to do at the end of this unit, or where should they be at after the first day or the second day, that kind of thing. And you'd be using questions and using student responses and using interaction in that way to really help guide that learning and define that learning, so we don't have to wait until the end and then either have a celebration because we all got it, or have a head scratch moment because we have several that still don't demonstrate that they've learned the material and they can't do what you want them to do. So one of the interactive things talks again about that is how do you write a scale. We've got the general scales. Many of you are using the general scales. This could help even also with tracking of their own progress. I know we've talked a little bit about that. Some staff are using those kind of things. Some it's a little bit scary how much time that might take, but there's some ideas in there of how to possibly track progress in the Dweck book and also in the optional Marzano handout. One of the other Marzano handouts is from Design Question 2, developing how do I help students, effectively interact with new knowledge. And again, this is part of that lesson plan, that's going to be a big part of a lot of different lessons. And also to get into the summarization and the reflection on learning. Reflecting is a big part of it. It has some strategies for questioning and some different strategies for students to record their learning and reflect on their learning. So again, might be a piece that came up from several of you in conversations and even in our meeting last week, in January. And then the last design question that I have the information on is about higher order thinking skills, and this is the generate and test hypothesis about new knowledge. And some of you have this as your goal, and some of you would like to do more of this and get into some more differentiation and really push those higher kids a little bit further. And some of these strategies can be good for all kids, not necessarily just high kids. So again, some more strategies laid out. Some questions, some reflective questions for the user, which is you, as to what kind of things you do now and what kind of things how can you tweak it a little bit. So again, a lot of examples and a lot of questions in those 3 resources, the Marzano Design Question resources. The big chunk again is the Dweck book, and it really gets into a lot of progress monitoring again, how to do it. There is in every one of those chapters. There's actually examples, and he even shows charts that he used. Strategies laid out. One of my favorites, I've shared this with a few of you. It's the, that use multiple choice, and because we've started to use a lot more multiple choice, feeling that it helps us prepare for C4L. Probably was a little scary with me getting that close to the screen. My apologies. But there's a strategy about I know I am close for multiple choice responses, and it's on the back of the test. Maybe it's a 20. Let's say it's a 20 question multiple choice test. The student gets the opportunity to pick 3 or 5 or whatever number questions that they're not sure. They think they're close, but maybe they've got some conflicting information that they just can't quite parse out, and it allows them then to maybe say number 3, 6, 7, 9 are the 4 of maybe I could pick 5, but I only picked 4, and they can write out why they chose the answer they chose, what the second, why they thought it could be another answer, and it might actually show a greater depth of knowledge on their part, even if they chose the wrong one. Sometimes it might even, find an error in the way a question was asked, because as we all know, when we see things that we write, we tend to not see someone else's perspective. So that's just an example. I've shared that with a few of you. It's I know I am close response on a multiple choice type test, because we all know that at times multiple choice they could guess right, and we could have a false sense of security, or they could guess wrong and look way worse than maybe they actually are, simply because of some language or vocabulary or word choice. So it's a long reading. It's nearly 50 pages long. Don't expect anybody to read it all at one setting, but as you can imagine, a lot of the pages are full of charts and different examples, so it's not 50 actual pages of reading, and I think you recall there's not a ton of words on each page either, so it's not a huge project. This time of year, I know everybody is swamped, and trust me, I'm well aware of that. So I'm not asking for anything major, but I also know that no lesson, no expectation for staff, anything that I have ever read has ever said if there's not something expected, you won't get anything out of it, and there won't be any attention to the detail. So the only thing I expect, and I'm going to put as the end of the day on March 11th, which is the last day of conferences, and we go 2 days off, and will I do anything with it at that point? Probably not, but I kind of want to start the conversation. I liked using Google Plus for some of those comments, but I would like to have some questions posted on the Google Plus site, in response to this lesson. It only has to be a single question, and if you pose more if you like, anything that you want to know more about. So maybe it's something you are concerned about as far as we move forward, with grading, standards-based grading. How do I do this? Maybe it's a how do I do this question. Anybody have an idea for me? Here's what I want to do, and maybe that creates something where somebody else already has created something that you can use. A question that the grading committee could reflect on. Please keep this in mind. I'm wondering about what this would look like in my classroom or in this building if we go down this path. So it helps the grading committee. And by the way, I want to at this point thank Nate Tonjes and Matt Flynn and Kendra Craven are the 3 that agreed to serve on the grading committee. We've only met once at this point, so we are part of this. We'll get some of your questions to guide our next meeting, and we have a little task between there too that I'm working on to help get some more resources too. But we just have started that conversation. And so that's what I will ask from everybody is, the Dweck reading, the Dweck passage, chapter 5, is required reading, and then to just pose one question. And it could be something specifically about a strategy in that chapter. I'm not really understanding what he meant by this. Anybody have an idea for me? So that allows me to know that everybody at least has read that piece. If you choose to do any of the other Marzano pieces, maybe a question comes from that too. Or maybe it's a big question of, just generally grading philosophy. What's everybody think about this? Or here's a question for the group, the committee to reflect upon. So just something to keep our thoughts moving forward, to keep the conversation going, obviously in a positive way as much as we can, so we can all continue to learn. So I've appreciated the efforts, and I think the comments that we get back, I think our conversations have been very positive and very productive. and I hope that, or I trust that'll continue to. So I think you'll like this chapter, even though it's long. I think it gives a lot of very usable and concrete ideas and supports those ideas. I think that there are things that you're going to be able to use in your classroom in some cases right away, and in other cases might take some more work or reflection on your part, but I don't think it'll be wasted time by any means. And all the other Marzano things, really it's topical, so if those are things that you're still have some questions about, or you want to work more toward that direction, I think you'll find it valuable. I don't think you'll waste any time if you did them all, but that's not the expectation of those optional ones. So again, March 11th, post a comment on the Google Plus staff site, and then that'll help guide our next grading committee meeting. Thanks.